As an academy owner, you work hard to build trust with your students, their parents, and your community. But trust isn't something you claim, it's something you prove and earn. That's where Academy Safe comes in. We help academies like yours stand out with verified safety standards. Background checks for all staff, U.S. Center for Safe Sports certification, concussion training, defibrillators on site, CPR, first aid and AED certification, security cameras, rank and lineage checks, and verification of business insurance. Join the trusted martial arts registry that's redefining safety throughout North America. Lead by example. Show parents you're accredited with Academy Safe.
Hello, and welcome to My Empty Hands, a podcast about the martial arts, typically focused on Kempo, but we give love to all the martial arts around here. I am Reggie Darden, and I'm excited to once again have Mr. Cliff Kinchen on with me today. Some of the listeners here may be familiar with him. He was one of the teachers featured on the show Kitty Kai. And we'll definitely talk a little bit about that. I know probably a lot of folks are not into reality shows and that sort of thing. I very much am, and I thought Kitty Cat was a very fun watch. So if you haven't checked it out, it's definitely worth seeing. So you can find that, I guess, on Discovery Plus or HBO Max or whatever it's called called today. It keeps changing, but yeah, it's good stuff. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll catch up on what Mr. Kitchen's been up to. He was previously on the show back in October of 24. So lots gone on since then. So we'll get an update with him, and then we will also talk about his new book and get some of the details on that. So, and then as I always say, whatever other rat holes we get onto, we'll do that as well. Always start things off by just saying that at this point I train in multiple martial arts: American Kempo, Aikido, Capoeira, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and I've done some Taekwondo and some boxing over the years. So I stay busy, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So let's see where we want to start. Well, let's get an update with you. How has 2025 and 2026 been for you? What have you been up to since we last spoke to you? And we'll start with that.
Well, things have been going pretty good. I mean, pretty steady with running the dojo and whatnot. But I have been spending the last couple of years focusing on writing the book, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But outside of that, I've been getting recently, and it's weird with the reality show thing because it's put on streaming, and without a whole lot of marketing, people don't know that it's out there, and then people discover it over time, and then you start getting feedback. So I've recently got some messages from folks saying that they just watched the show, and and it's been out for a couple years now, but they just had an opportunity to watch it, and they really enjoyed it. So that's pretty cool, unexpected feedback, because we did it, it's been done, we'll go back to life, and then now people are discovering it. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm actually not really sure how I stumbled onto it, but yeah, it was a very, very pleasant surprise, right. and really enjoyed it. So for those that don't know, Kitty Kai is a reality show that follows four martial arts instructors, and they kind of have a little competition between the schools to kind of see who's got the goods, and who
Right.
can get the most trophies, and that sort of thing, and just kind of follows the teachers and some of their students, and the kind of struggles and things that they go through. And uh, I mean, not to ruin the illusion of the show, but I mean, it is a reality show, and there
True.
are definitely things that are, uh, I don't know, maybe played up for drama, but I think it's still very kind of still taps into a very kind of real aspect of life, and of martial arts, and training and teaching, and that sort of thing. And I will do a little ass kiss rodeo here, and say that out of the teachers that are featured, I would say that Mr. Kitchens uh, was displayed probably in the best light of the four teachers, and I feel that your representation was most realistic, most least the least kind of trumped up. So that's
It's
I think that's good on you, and your character, because I mean, we're in the age where everybody's wants to be famous, and
mhm,
all those things, and I think that kind of colors uh, when you're going to be on a show like that. It kind
right.
of colors how you act, and things like that. So
Yeah, it does absolutely, and I appreciate the kind words. The show itself, it's I think it was a surprise for the producers of the show as well, because I mean, I watch a lot of reality TV as well, just like you do, and so you can tell when things are kind of trumped up, like you said. And I think they attempted to do that with us, but you're dealing with a bunch of martial artists, and it's a little bit hard. Now, some did play to the cameras, and and they had ways to get things out of people, and it just I was very conscious of that and what they were doing, and making sure that I kept, myself and my students as grounded as possible in what we really do, day to day. Because, I from the start, the from the onset, I told those guys I don't want to make a mockery of the martial arts, and I don't want to be seen that way at all. And I mean, I get it. I understand it's good TV with the drama and all that, because I enjoy watching that myself. But martial arts isn't about that. It's really the opposite. And you know, you do have some characters. I mean, some of the guys I was asked by a bunch of people if one of the guys on the show was an actor, and I'm like, no, not at all. That's him for real, and he's that way with his students in real life. And it's and people were really surprised, and I'm like, there are guys out there like that for real. So I mean, you have to be careful in choosing your martial arts instructor. I often tell people it's sort of like picking a doctor, right? You can find doctors, they're all good, they're all certified, they're trained, but there's a relationship that has to be built there as well. And it's not, and in personalities, you have to be able to get along with that person. So it was an interesting thing to be a part of, and I'm glad that I did it. It was really enlightening for my students and myself as well.
mm. Now I'm pretty sure I asked this last time that you were on, but we'll revisit it. And in that, uh, if well, one, is there, now that you've been through the experiences, is there anything that you would have done differently? And then two, if you were given the opportunity to do a season two, or maybe another show kind of similar, would you sign up to do that again?
um yeah, that's an interesting one. Anything I would have done differently? I don't really think so. I think I I've tried to be myself on the show, and so I don't think I would have changed anything. If I had an opportunity to do it again, I'm not sure. I think I'd want to talk to them a little bit more about what their goal was, and what their plan was for the show. Not every reality show has to be about that, that crazy drama. I mean, there's things. I think there's a lot of interesting storylines that can be told with martial arts. Mine, the other guys, just how we came up, how we became martial artists, and why are we doing that? Why are we running around in our pajamas, right? And teaching people how to punch and kick. What drove us to do that? And outside of doing other things. So it depends if I would do it again, and I wouldn't have done anything differently.
Very nice, very
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, it's yeah, when I was super into the show, and I actually kind of rewatched, I think most of it just the other day, just to kind
Right.
of sort of get ready for our chat today.
Right.
Um, I didn't realize this, but my instructor actually was approached to do. I don't know if it was the same group or whatever, but a number of years ago, he was approached to do a show very similar to that,
Right.
and he was kind of almost tempted to do it, but then he kind of had the thought of, oh well, yeah, they're gonna do these kind of crazy stunts and things to
Right.
build up the drama, and ultimately decided not to do that. So
And it's very very well possible. From what I understand, they interviewed a few hundred instructors before they decided on us, and I think I was the last one to join. I believe no, I think John Chung was the last one, but I was second to last. But it's very well possible. I know several of the instructors around our area were approached, and several of them turned it down. A few told them that they had to, speak with their own instructors before they could do it, and which is something that I kind of, they told me that, and I'm like, I listen, man, we're all grown men. I'm not. I mean, I get it, and I have loyalty and respect for the people that I trained under, and and my, I guess my those guys that are above me in the arts as far as rank and all that. So I respect them, but at the same time, you know dude, I'm a man. I put my pants on just like you do every day. I mean, I don't need to ask another grown man permission to do something. That to me, that I think, I think that that's something that if you did a reality show again, something to explore in that a lot of times martial arts instructors become almost like this, they're put on a pedestal by their students and others around him, and it's almost a mystical thing. This guy is amazing. How's he do all these things, and he's so great. And to me, that's almost borderline on cultish behavior, right? I
yeah.
don't want, and you know what I'm talking about, because I mean, and it happens in a lot of different martial arts, and then just with people, and I try my best to steer clear of that. I I told someone once that I look at myself as just a tool, with teaching kids as another tool a parent uses to help develop their children. It's not that, I don't turn another person's child into a man or a woman or anything like that. I'm just one of the tools. They go to school, right? They go to church. They have all these other things in their lives that they do to help them to develop their character and develop into, a healthy adult. And, that type of behavior to me, it's weird, man. To be quite honest, it's weird. I'm like, dude, I don't, I don't. So I think exploring that, like, how does it get to where these people are like worshiping almost their instructors, right? And matter of fact, one of the parents on the show mentioned something like that uh the kung fu instructor, and so about how great he was, and I'm like, I get it, right? And I know, and I there's a lot of responsibility with that, because I know that people look at me that way as well, and they look up to me and they respect me a lot. And I take it very seriously, that responsibility, that I continue to be that way. And again, I'm human. I make mistakes like everyone else. I've made a bunch of mistakes over the course of my life, but at the same time, I try to correct those mistakes, and get back on the right path. And I think that is a big part of it, and overcoming obstacles, and doing things the right way, even though I may not do it initially. Once I figure it out, like, okay, now let me get back on the straight and narrow, and let them know that I'm human just like you. I make mistakes like you do. I'm no different. I've had different experiences, and I have something to share, and that's cool. But I don't want anybody worshiping me and saying, oh, this guy, because at some point I'm gonna falter, right? We all do. So yeah, and that's kind of kind of the almost the theme of my book too. Just that whole, being, because I wrote the book as part memoir and it was part leadership book, and it's built, on my journey growing up in Detroit, serving 20 years in the Air Force, and then spending a lifetime in the martial arts. And the book is really about that resilience and character and what it means to become, the standard of things in your own life.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's always kind of funny to me how that works out with it's important to have that respect for your teacher and for your instructor, but at the same time, you have to realize that they are human. They're
Hmm.
not some deity, and they're
Correct.
not all perfect. They may strap on the black belt, but they are definitely definitely does not make them perfect, especially
Nope.
in these times. I mean, in the jiu-jitsu world, there's a big shakeup with a number of notable
Hmm.
people. In the capoeira world, there's been some dust up with some of very very big names in the art. Uh, it it happens to every art. Every school is not immune to that sort of thing, and
Right.
yeah, it doesn't matter the teacher. Anybody can make a mistake or something, and yeah, you have to have that respect, but you also have to keep your eyes and ears open and be
Exactly.
mindful of what's going on, and speak up if you need to speak up, or um, something that I've heard and I've really been kind of in love with the idea of not being afraid to quit, and
Right.
uh, not saying that, oh, well, this is hard and I'm going to leave. But if you're at a school, you're with a teacher or an instructor that is not meeting your needs, it's okay to say, you know what, I need to go find a different teacher, I need to go find a
Correct.
different school. And I think there's a lot of these kind of problems have come up because people are so loyal to whatever teacher
Right.
that it maybe clouds their judgment, or puts them in they put the blinders on to what's going on, and it's like,
Right.
no, it doesn't matter who the teacher is. You can't, if they're doing wrong things, you have to step in and say something, or leave, or can't just kind of sweep it under the rug. So
Right.
I
And that
say that's
happens.
huge.
I think it happens. I mean, a lot of folks, you don't, the instructors themselves, like you said, they're human, they make mistakes. You can't sweep stuff under the rug, and you can't be afraid to leave, like you said. And that happens a lot where people get so caught up. I've even seen it where people aren't allowed to even train with other folks, and that too to me is a red flag, right? If your instructor says you're, or an organization, there are organizations out there that won't allow instructors to do certain things. And if for instance, if I wanted to invite someone to come and share something from a different martial art with my students, I'll just do that, right? It's not a big deal. But with other organizations, some other instructors, that's not allowed. Students aren't allowed to go and train with other folks. I've had students ask me if I was okay with them going to train with someone else, and I'm like, absolutely. You don't have to necessarily ask my. I appreciate you asked me, but you don't have to ask my permission. I mean, you can do what you want to do. I don't, and I encourage that, because our job as instructors are to help people grow and to develop. And I don't have all the answers, right? And I may not have the answer to the questions that you have, and so someone else might, and that's okay. That, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's something that I've just running my school for the last 13 years or so here where I'm living. There's other martial arts instructors and schools around, but we don't talk, right? I think they all see each other as competition. I don't necessarily see it that way. I mean, the city that my school is in, small, that's about 30,000 people. I mean, it's a suburb, north of Charlotte, and I can't teach 30,000 people, right? So it doesn't matter. There could be 100 schools there, right? There's 100 schools. What is that? 3,000 people. You just can't. So to me, we should be sharing, things with each other and helping each other to grow because we're trying to, you know, give something to this community that we live in. And instead of fighting with each other over, students and this kind of thing, I mean, there's enough students for everybody, right? And there's enough to share with everybody. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a weird thing, man. I don't get it.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% on that. It is strange that uh, there is so much kind of fighting between the schools and especially in these days where we're so fragmented, we're so disconnected. I mean,
Right.
I don't want to bring up the kind of whole COVID thing and the disconnect, but I mean our social connections just really were really broken from
Right.
that. And
And it was getting that way anyway, right? With social media and everything, even before COVID. But then once everybody got locked away, people got comfortable with it. I mean, it just in, and this is, I guess, kind of going down one of those rabbit holes you talk about, but it's connected. People, even with their work, you got comfortable working from home, not going out, not engaging with people, talking to people face to face every day. It was, even a video call wasn't always what they were doing. So it disconnected us even more than we already were, started down that road. So it's unfortunate.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, so I definitely think that the schools should there should be more collaboration between the schools, and
Absolutely.
we should be more about trying to get people in general to train and get in the doors
Correct.
versus, oh well, you need to get into my doors and on my
Right.
mat. It's like, no,
And
let's
and
get
what I
everybody
teach,
to train. Yeah.
right, what I teach is better than what that guy teaches down the street. No, not necessarily better. It's different. It may be different. And depending on my needs, it may be better, but you have to figure that out. I mean, it's to me, it was even when I was I'll go back a little bit. When I was in the Air Force still, I was a recruiter in Richmond, Virginia, and other recruiters in the other services, they always talk about how their service was the best. And I didn't have that. What I would do is someone would come in the door and I wanted to know what they wanted. Why did you want to join the military? What was your desire? What do you want to do? Because if your desire is to, you want to be a soldier, you want to be in combat, you want to do that, or some, I love tanks. I love tanks when I was a kid. I want to be on a tank crew. Well, then the Air Force is the wrong place because we don't have any tanks, right? And so trying to tell them or manipulate them into it. To me, it doesn't go down the hall because the Army and the Marines, they've got tanks. That's what you do. And then that way, and I've done things like that before and people have appreciated that. And then they've referred people to me because they knew what I offered and it was what that person needed. And I think it's the same way in the martial arts. If someone's coming in and they're looking for, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I've trained in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but I don't have a black belt. I don't have a purple belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I don't have any belt in jiu-jitsu, right? But I've trained a lot, but I can't teach you Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I can teach you a few techniques and whatnot, but a complete program, I don't have that. So the Jiu Jitsu I learned was to supplement my striking. And so I can teach you how to do that if you want to do it. But if you want to learn Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and become a black belt, you love the Gracies or whoever, and you want to do that, then there are some guys down the street and you can go down there and train with them because they'll be able to better do that for you. I can't say 100%, but it's a jiu-jitsu school, so it's better than coming here where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, so let's get into your book. What was
Sure.
the what was the reasoning behind wanting to write a book, and uh, let's just get into
Yeah.
what it's all about.
I so it's funny, man. I've been playing with the idea for a long time, for probably a couple of decades of wanting to write a book. And well, what do you want to write a book on? Do you want to write about martial arts? You want to write about the military, your experiences growing up in Detroit? Do you want to write about whatever? And I just a couple years ago, I just sat down and I just started writing, and it kind of it morphed over time, but not very much. I started writing. I just started with growing up in Detroit, and I talked about my experiences growing up in Detroit. And then I go, well, I can share that, but what does that mean, right? Everybody has, I grew up here, I grew up there, whatever. And I wanted to share some of the lessons I learned growing up, in the ghetto, in, such a rough environment. Like I may have mentioned before, I mentioned on the show that, my father was a heroin addict and things like that. Well, what were those experiences like? And why did, what was it that got me out of that? And then into the military, my experiences in the Air Force, going through, serving during, Desert Storm and all that, and the different leaders and styles of leadership that I experienced, and all the different things I had there. And then my time after the Air Force, once I retired and I went to work in corporate America, what that was like, and the lessons I learned there, and then running my martial arts school as well. And having done martial arts throughout all of those phases of my life, martial arts was in the background the whole time. And I think that was my foundation. And so the book goes from my time growing up in Detroit, my time in the military, time after, and then I go back and say, okay, this is my martial arts journey from the beginning through all of those different phases of life. And then there are different lessons. So the book is a collection of stories, sort of it's in memoir form, where I grew up here and I did this, but I go through this timeline and then all the different leadership lessons that I learned, good and bad, and I explain those. And what I do is I do have a a graduate degree, with a concentration in strategic leadership. I was a superintendent of a leadership academy before I retired from the Air Force. So I have an academic background as well. And so what I did is I took all that experience that I had and married it with my academic, background, so I can explain it from that standpoint as well. So someone who's, a leadership trainer, or someone that's into that, they'll get, okay, this guy does have the academic credentials to talk about these things from that standpoint, but also here's the experience that I had. And this is, even as a kid, going back and looking at it, not understanding what I was doing or what I was seeing, I do now. And let me explain to you what that was and what was going on. So, yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Now that you've got one out of the way, is there more books planned?
And I definitely would like to write more. This took me a little bit, right? It took me a while, but having gone through the process now, I'm like, okay, I got this. I understand how to put this together, and I definitely want to write some more. This one was written in a way. I had one of my buddies. He read it. He was like, "Man, maybe your niche is teaching leadership, to kids." And I go, "I like that. I like teaching kids. I do, but I also have a background in teaching, corporate people as well. So I don't mind teaching adults." I go, "The book was written, and this first book was written, you know, um, if I'd use a movie rating, it would be PG, right? It was written
Hmm.
for most audiences, so most of my students can read it and take something away from it. But there's a lot of things that, I don't want to say adult content, but there are adult topics when it comes to leadership that, not necessarily fit for kids. I'd want to write one, something like that, kind of a companion piece to this for the
Hmm.
adults. So it would be, things that we deal with more as adults when it comes to leadership, and in all areas of our life, not just in work, but in home as a parent, or at church. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher, different things that we deal with, but more adult topics that, maybe not be fitting for a 10-year-old to read.
Hmm. Gotcha. So that kind of made me think about something that I heard kind of recently, and it kind of made me think is that there are a lot of martial arts teachers out there that don't have any background in teaching,
Right.
and it never really kind of dawned on me that yeah, that's it's interesting, and it's I think it's a very important thing that maybe should get pushed more, is that if you are going to be in a teaching capacity, that you should learn you should learn how to teach, and not just teaching the art, but the actual
Correct.
the actual steps, the actual I can't think of the word at the
There,
moment, but
well, I know
the
exactly what
structure.
yeah, correct. There's a structure to teaching, and you're absolutely right. And I think most martial arts instructors were taught how to teach martial arts from their instructor, who was taught from their instructor. But none of these people have a teaching background. And I think teachers, like I have a student now, he just retired from teaching and about a year ago, and I asked him to, I had a couple new folks come in, and I asked him to take one of them and to teach him some of our techniques. And I didn't teach him how to teach it, but I know he knew how and I watched it, right? I just wanted to see how it went. And because he has a teaching background, he was able to do that. He was quickly able to take it and break it down so that that person could understand it. And there's different techniques in teaching, and one of them is called demonstration performance, which is what we do in martial arts. That's what we do. There's some lecture, but the majority of what we do is we demonstrate what we want them to do, we have them practice, and then we evaluate them. That's demonstration performance teaching. But unless you have that background and you've been taught how to teach, you don't understand that that's what you're doing. And then you go, okay, so then how do I do that? So if I'm going to do that, I need to break it down, into these smaller steps. Maybe not for everyone, but for some. And for some people, again, different ways of learning as well. So some you can just tell them what to do. They can do it, right? So they can auditory learners, and then you have, your visual learners, you have your tactile. So you have to kind of show them how to do it, and they have to actually do it themselves to get it. You have to understand all those different elements, and that you've got a room full of, let's say you got 20 kids in there. They all may have a different learning style or a combination of those learning styles. And you have to be able to adapt your teaching to be able to teach those children. You can't, a lot of times we do, and I feel like there's you know, one shoe fits all, right? I'm going to teach this way, and you either get it or you don't. Oh, you're not getting it. Do 20 push-ups, right? That doesn't help anybody. It discourages the kid because the kid's trying, but you're not presenting it in a way that they learn. So they're trying to figure it out, and they're making mistakes, and then now I'm being punished for something I don't even know how to do it, right? And then you discourage them from wanting to train. And that's that's a problem as well, I think, in our industry, that we do it that way. Either get it or you don't. And, I'm not going to slow down. It's not the best way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. So what would be maybe a few quick tips that you'd want to put out there for those that are looking into teaching, those that are maybe those that are already currently teaching? Maybe what are some things that maybe are overlooked, or just don't have the kind of focus that they should in I guess maybe we'll have it in teaching in general, and specifically in martial arts instruction.
I, I do think that if you have a general understanding of how to teach, even if you took, there's online classes you can do, or online workshops you can do in learning how to teach, how to structure, a lesson, maybe even how to put a lesson plan together. What does a lesson plan look like? And presenting, because if you understand how to develop a lesson plan, you can teach almost anything, right? Obviously, you want to have some experience with it so you know what you're teaching. But honestly, if you have a lesson plan that's written correctly, you can hand that to a person, and if they follow it, obviously they're reading it, but they can follow it and be able to teach something effectively, efficiently enough where the person gets it. So I think maybe taking some type of workshop or online class. You don't have to go and sign up, go and enroll in classes at a college, some educational program. You don't need that necessarily, but I think if you have that background, or even if you know someone that was a teacher, maybe even just talking with them and, picking their brain on how, okay, I'm trying to teach this to my students, how would you do that as a teacher? How would you put that together? That can help. And I think that kind of segues into what you're saying as far as martial arts. If you take the lessons that you're trying to teach, whatever techniques or principles in martial arts you're trying to teach, put that into that lesson plan and then teach it that way in a structured way. I think a lot of times we say we have structure, but a lot of times our stuff isn't written down. It's not. It's not. It's not. We don't. We just kind of go off the top of the dome, and or it's very generic what we do have written down. And I've got a couple of manuals at my school, and I think mine could be fleshed out a little bit more as well. I explain things, techniques, and this, that, and the other. But there, teaching someone just simply to do a front kick, right? How to chamber, curl the toes back because you're striking with the ball of the foot, snap the foot out from the knee, bring it back, put it down. There's several steps in doing that. And breaking that down and understanding that is important because as you teach, you may be able to just show some students, hey, lift your knee up, pull your toes back, kick. Others, you may have to physically move their leg in the right position. So understanding that and having patience with that, I think is a big part of what we do as teachers. Um, I think too, from a martial arts school owner standpoint, and I get it, man. I really do. we Martial arts is it's a huge industry. There's money to be made. There's guys that are making millions and millions of dollars teaching martial arts, but they're not really teaching. They're running a business. And to me, it's such a it's a fine line, right? I walk that line all the time. I'm like, I don't want to cross over into it just being a business because then I'm not enjoying what I'm doing if I'm just running a business. And so but at the same time, I don't get to, buy freaking Lamborghini or something like some of these other guys are doing. I mean, I get that. And to me, I don't need that. I would rather, having all the money in the world, you can't take it with you, right? So having some legacy that you can leave, like writing this book, it's not just, I wrote it, but to leave something behind, not just, I didn't write, because it's funny. I had someone, the publisher that was helping me was like, we want to, try to minimize as many pages because of printing cost. And then that'll maximize, your profits if this, that, and the other. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to take any content out just to try to save a few pennies to make a little bit more money on the back end. I'd rather have the book the way that I want it because when I'm gone, this is going to be left. Is nobody's going to care. Oh, he made so much money off of his book, right? I'd rather people talk about, hey, remember that book that he wrote? Yeah, it was, so insightful, and I learned some things from it. That's to me, that's the value, right? That's the money that's made, right? And so you can still make money and live a decent life and do all that and still, contribute something that's, meaningful to, society and leave behind a legacy that, that's, worth remembering.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not always about the dollar, and
No,
I
I
mean,
get it though. Listen, I get it, man. I do. I want to, would I like to get behind a Lamborghini? Absolutely. But you know what? Yeah, a Lamborghini, a yacht, all the stuff, it's maintenance that has to go along with that stuff. It's just not, and I think I heard us saying a long time ago from this old Air Force, NCO, he was like, the grass on the other side may be greener, but it still needs to be mowed. And I was like, that's so true. It doesn't matter. You're still going to have issues no matter, what situation you're in. So you can have all the money in the world, but you still have to deal with certain things, even if it's, putting premium gas in there at the prices we're paying now. So,
oh
yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. The
Yeah.
the gas pumps are a brutal
Hmm.
brutal thing to deal with
Yes, it
in
is.
this time that we're dealing with now. Yeah. Um, so now that you've gone through this process, was there anything that maybe surprised you about the book writing process that
um, yeah, I suppose it was, I thought it would be, I think I made it more difficult than it needed to be for myself. I think that was the thing. I went into it thinking, man, this is going to be so hard. And it can start out that way if you don't understand what you're doing. And for me, I wanted to write it. I kind of had an idea of what I want to write about, but not really. And so I'm like, okay, what direction do I want to go? I know I wanted to talk about my experiences in martial arts and how it's helped me throughout my life in all those phases of my life. I knew that, but how would I structure it? And I thought, you know, the way I wrote the book, you can open it up and start reading a story, read the lesson, and then close it. Then you can tomorrow you can open it to a different page. So you don't have to read the book front to back if you don't want to. And I think that was because I've read books that way and I'll go, man, that's pretty neat. I like that because I don't have to. I can just kind of go and pick and choose. And then for, my students and people that know me, my family, they can read it and it kind of gives them a chronology of my life. Like this is what he did. He grew up. I know that part, but I don't know everything that he did when he was in the Air Force. And here's some of those things that I did and some of the lessons that I learned. And then after leaving the Air Force, this is what I did. And so, and then even in the martial arts, there's things that I've had a couple of my longtime students have gotten the book and they've read it and they were like, I never knew that about you. And that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it's, different things that, and they see me in a different light. But again, as human, because there's a lot of vulnerability in the book, me talking about different things that I experienced. And I think that was important too. Like, hey, here's this guy that we've put on this pedestal, but you know what? We did that and he's who he is, but he earned it the hard way, right? He went through all these experiences and that's why he's the way that he is. And this is the person we look up to, but it's because he's had these challenges that he overcame and he's trying to show us how to do the same thing. And I think that's, to me, that's it, man. That's the cool part about it. If I don't, and again, I never wrote the book to try to make money off of it. That wasn't my goal at all. And I don't care if I never make any money. If I get the feedback that I'm getting, I continue to get that feedback from folks. That's the most important thing to me, because again, at the end of the day, we can't take any of this stuff with us. And I want, you know, to have, I think I want my life to have meant something. And if, for anybody that reads the book, you'll understand why I say that. I don't want to have been on this earth for however many years and then not have contributed anything and not have done anything to help other people. And that, you know, that's my goal.
Yeah, I was just talking about something similar at my jiu-jitsu class this morning with some of the folks there, and that having a purpose. So the context is one of our training buddies here. He is a police officer, and
Mhm.
he's closing in on time to retire.
Right.
And we were kind of talking about the life expectancy of police officers after they retire and that sort of
Hmm.
thing. And it's like, yeah, everybody kind of has that nice thought of, oh, okay, well, I'm going to retire and sit on my butt and drink some beers and watch TV and just relax and stuff like that. But you need to have a purpose.
Correct.
And yeah, you may not be going into work, but you still have to be doing something. And if that's getting on the mat or volunteering or something,
Correct.
you need to have some sort of purpose. And I related that there was a period where I was out of work for quite a few months, and
Hmm.
the first few days it was like, okay, it's nice, and kick back,
Right.
sleep in, and but I mean, after that first week, I was my mental state was
Right.
really in a bad place, because I needed to be needed. I needed to have a reason
Correct.
to go out and do things and make my mark and have that, you know, that I mattered, and I have a reason to be here on this planet. And
Right.
so yeah, it's
And you're
writing a
absolutely
book or doing something is, we all need to have that purpose.
correct. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the military is the same way. A lot of guys that retire from the military, and it's unfortunate because you kind of lose, like you had so much responsibility and you had a purpose. You got up every day and there was something that you did. And if you don't prepare for that time when you do retire, okay, what is the next thing I'm going to do? A lot of guys, they end up, they have heart attacks. They die from the stress of it, just not knowing what to do, right? You don't have, what do I, why am I here? And that's, it's important, like you say, to have a purpose, to have something to make you wake up every day. And, and mine is to share share my story and my experience with people. And I think at this point in my life, I'm 55 years old now. I'm not, I'm not 85, but I'm not 25 either. Right. So I'm old enough to have had some experiences, been through some things, but still young enough to be able to connect with people and share that stuff with them and say, okay, I understand what you're going through because I went through that not long ago. And this is how I overcame those things. And so I think that for me is my purpose is to show people that though life has its challenges, you can overcome those and you want to learn from it. And that's where my book comes into play, where there's a lot of different things in there that I experienced. And, for a lot of the folks that have given me feedback, they're like, man, I never thought about that, or I experienced something similar and I didn't think about it the way that you did. And I go, and it's helpful because it's not just helpful, it's healthy, right? To go back and to look at that stuff, for your mental state and to go, hey, you know what? I overcame something that was difficult. I'll give you one story. One of my students, she goes, you know, I had I was in the Air Force, it's new in the Air Force. I went to my base in California, and my cousin, who my parents had guardianship of, he had committed suicide, and so I went back home for the funeral. And when I came back, because I was at a nuclear test base, they made me go see a psychologist. So, because you're working around nukes, they want to make sure everybody's good. So I went in, I saw him, and I had to take a psychological evaluation prior to going in and seeing him. So I did that, and then I went ahead and said, "All right, sorry about that." I
Oh, no, no problem.
my daughter left her phone and it started going off. But anyway,
No problem.
I went in, took the evaluation, and I sat down with this psychologist, a young guy. He was probably, late 20s, early 30s. And I was only 19 at the time. And, we talked a little bit about my background. We talked about my cousin. We talked about my mother who had died just prior to me joining the Air Force. And so, within a span of a year and a half, 2 years, my mother passed away. My cousin committed suicide. So, and I get it, right? That I could, emotionally, have somebody, pretty distraught. But he said that the test showed that I had a mild case of grandiosity. And I'm like, I'm 19 from Detroit. I'm like, dude, that's a big word. I don't know what's grandiosity, right? And so he said, it means that you're basically stuck on yourself. And I'm like conceited. And he was like, yeah. And I go, listen, where I come from, most people, are expected to be one of a few places, either dead in jail, right? Or strung out on drugs or a combination thereof. And I go, if I don't believe in myself and have confidence in myself to do something, why should anybody else? And he kind of just looked at me and was like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to recommend you go back to work. Right. And my student, she goes, she was like, that was amazing. She go, I didn't, that you told him that. I go, at 19 years old, listen, I've been through a lot at that point, and I wasn't being confident. There's nothing wrong with that. And we all should have that confidence, and we should all have that belief in ourselves. And like I told her, I said, I believe, and people are like, that's crazy. I believe I can do brain surgery, right? And then she's like, what are you talking about? I go, listen to me. Not today. It may take me 20 years of studying, but I think if I put my mind to it, eventually I'll be able to do it. And that's the difference. It's not that I believe I can do it today. I can't just go in an operating room, start cutting on somebody. Of course not. But I don't have a mental, any kind of, learning deficit or anything like that. So I think if I given enough time, I can learn how to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that type of confidence. We all should have that type of confidence that we have belief in ourselves that, yeah, maybe not today, but one day, right? Just like today I'm a white belt, one day I believe I can be a black belt. And that, as long as I train hard and I do what I'm supposed to do, I can get there. And it may some of us get there faster than others. It just that's how it is. But eventually I'll be able to do it. And so that's what I want to share with people that, hey, look, things can be hard, but don't quit, right? Don't give up because that's the easy way, right? That's the easy thing to do is just to quit and say, okay, and then you never accomplish anything. And then again, there's no purpose if you quit and you give up every time things get difficult. So yeah. Get off my soapbox.
No, well said, well said, well said. I like it. I like it. All right, so we are going to move into our lightning round here.
Sure.
Pretty sure I hit you with these questions the last time that you were on,
Okay.
but so we can go back, check the tape, and see if
Right.
any of the answers change here. But
All
so
right.
let's see what we got here. So first one being, do you have a favorite technique?
Favorite technique. So this will be the same. Any type, any sidekicks, right? My favorite of the sidekicks is a spinning sidekick or a turning sidekick or a reverse sidekick. They call it different things, but yes, that's my favorite.
I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. Good one. All right.
Yep.
Next one. Do you have a favorite form and or set?
For in Taekwondo, obviously there are because that's the kata forms, hyungs, whatever they call them. They patterns. There is the World Taekwondo Federation. They have their two sets, and then the International Taekwondo Federation has theirs. Those are the ones that I do, the Chun-Ji forms. My favorite of those 24 is Chung Mu. Yep.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Oh, look now. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the names here. So I very much a fan of the Everyday Martial Artist podcast with Brian
Mhm.
Doucette,
Yep.
and he's his core system is Taekwondo, and he's
Hmm.
always mentioning, I want to say the Paul Gay forms.
Holge and Teguks, those are the World Taekwondo Federation forms. There are two sets. So
Hmm.
yes. Yep.
Hmm. And I guess he's more of a fan of the older ones versus the newer
Right.
ones.
Yep.
Is that
Yep.
similar to
They're
your thought
different, and
process?
they're different in that. So such a I don't want to go down this whole thing with but Taekwondo, um after the 1950s, it split right into the International Taekwondo Federation, World Taekwondo Federation, which is the Olympic style stuff. So that's what he's talking about with the Olympic style forms. They have two sets. There's an older set and then a newer set, but both are more upright, standing, almost walking forms, whereas the International Taekwondo forms, they were developed by General Choi, who was a second degree in Shotokan. And a lot of those 24 forms look very similar to techniques in the Shotokan forms. Because that's a traditional, Japanese martial art. It is there are lower stances and that kind of thing. And so the katas or forms that we do, you can see that influence from traditional karate.
Okay, gotcha,
And
gotcha, gotcha.
yep,
Thank you for that.
yep.
Okay, next question. Do you have a favorite weapon?
Nunchucks. But that all time favorite, but they're illegal everywhere. So that's so now my the runner up would be the Kali sticks. That would be because that's something that you could have, right? You can keep that, and so I teach a lot of Kali to my students just because it's practical. They want to, I'll work with nunchucks and bow staff and all that with them too if they want, but I teach them some different techniques with the Kali sticks because I think Kali is a very good form of self-defense with the weapon and without the weapon. So I teach them with the sticks, and then I teach them empty hand how to do it as well.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. Next question. If there's anyone that you could train with, living or dead, fictional or non-fictional, who would that be?
Gosh, man. I mean, everybody would say Bruce Lee, right? And so I mean, and gosh,
He comes up a lot. Not
comes
as
up a
much as
lot.
not as much as I thought he would though. So,
Yeah, it's a gosh, man. That's a rough one. There's so many guys out there that you know, I think if I could, I think honestly, I would probably, gosh, man, you know what? So look, I'm gonna do an old one and a new one, a younger one. So it's like
perfect, perfect.
all right. So I probably would. Chuck Norris is super old, but I think because of his background, he was in the Air Force and he was an Air Force law enforcement or military police like I was, and having that connection would just be cool to train with him. And he's trained with a lot of people, so he has a lot of experience. That would be that would be awesome. And then like Anderson Silva, man, I would
Oh,
love to train
nice.
with Anderson Silva. He's probably my favorite combat athlete overall, just in the modern era, I guess, of martial arts. Just such a, I got an opportunity to go to a UFC fight. It was UFC 101 when he fought Forrest Griffin, and that was like the highlights you see all the time where he's like doing the Matrix on him. It was insane to watch live somebody be able to perform like that so effortlessly that he moved. It's almost like he knew what was coming. It was, just an amazing thing to watch. So yeah, I would love to train with him.
Very nice, very nice. So I guess take a little side detour here.
Yes.
Um, what are your thoughts on the having the UFC at the White House? Now, I don't want
No,
to get
no,
into the political
no,
side
no,
of
no,
it,
no.
but
No, not at all. And I try to steer away from that myself. But it's that's like me and my close friends will talk stuff. But um, I think there's a lot of things that are going on because this is the 250th anniversary of the country coming up this year. So I think the timing is right. I think had they tried to do that at a different time, it'd have been like, okay, it's more of a spectacle. I think now it's not. It's different. It's only I think 6 total fights on the card, so it's not huge. Um, I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. I mean, all of the guys wanted to be on that card because it was going to be historic and whatnot. But there's
mhm.
a lot of things in other sports as well. I think because I train a lot of NASCAR guys, they're going to be out in San Diego, racing on a Navy base when they've got the ships and stuff. So I think a lot of sports are going to be doing things similar to that, just to kind of celebrate the country's 250th anniversary. So I think it's cool. The card itself, I think, could have been better. I think the card is way weaker than they were saying it was going to be. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, I don't even really see it being a great, pay-per-view card, let alone,
Hmm.
at the White House. But I mean, yeah, it is what it is when it comes to that. I'm sure they, because it is the White House, they had to vet a lot of different people and this, that, and the other, and then make sure guys are ready to fight and all that kind of stuff. So, I get that too. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with it, how they put the show on and all that. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I'm not opposed to it at all. I think it's fine. It's not, they're not inside the White House. It's going to be outside of the, so.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm not particularly opposed to it. It just it feels off to me. It feels very so if you know the movie Idiocracy,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it
Yep.
feels very much that, and
No,
expecting to
I
see
don't,
the
and again, I would agree 100%. And I'm on that line. I'm like, yeah, if it wasn't for this being the 250th anniversary and we're doing it to kind of celebrate that, I'd be like, yeah, I would be right with you. But I'm like, okay, I'll give you a pass on it this time.
very nice,
But
very nice. I like
yeah,
it.
yeah,
All right, so we are
cool.
at our final piece of business today, and that is the shameless self promotion. So plug anything that you'd like, or if there's anything that we haven't covered today that you wanted to say, you now have the floor.
Well, listen, I obviously, I mean, I'm only one man. I teach in Cornelius, North Carolina, just north of Charlotte. And so if anybody's in that area that's wanting to, train or is looking at training, obviously, I'd like you to come by and check us out. And for everyone else, including those people, my book that I just published 2 weeks ago is called Resilient Warrior, Be the Standard by Cliff Kinchen. It is on Amazon right now, so you can pick it up there. If you do and you think it's worthy, I would appreciate leaving a review. That way other readers can, be exposed to the book as well. So yeah,
Very nice, very nice, and yes, make sure to send me the links for that, and I will
absolutely.
put them in the show notes, and make sure that everybody gets a copy. I need
Right.
to do the same. It's I love with doing the show. I love getting the stories and everything, and it's great. Um, Last few guests have that I've had have written books, and
Right. Oh, wow.
I've been starting to kind of collect them, and it's
Right.
good. I'm not. I'm not the reader that I should be, but
Right.
I'm working on getting better to get through
Well,
everything. So
if it helps you, I've had, let's see, my wife included. My wife's not a huge reader, right? And she knows a lot of this stuff, but she read the book in 3 hours. And then I had other people who've read, a couple people read it in, one guy said I read it in a day. Someone else said I got it at 3:30. I was done at 5 o'clock. And I'm like, oh wow, that's crazy. So I think it kind of grabs you and holds your interest in that way. And that, I'm like, that's good, because I took my time to write it so that it would stay interesting. So people are like, man, that's crazy. Let me read the next thing. So yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah,
I love getting the stories, and there's so much that you don't realize sometimes until you go back through
right,
and really kind of check those things out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that out, and
right.
I'm sure the listeners will also be interested in that. So yeah, we'll make sure to get them onto that. So
Awesome.
yeah, I thank you so
Yes,
much
sir.
for being on again, and sharing your insights into things. And we'll definitely have to do
Yes,
this again at another time.
absolutely.
I still am I still kind of selfishly want to get a little Kitty Kai reunion, and
That would be,
get
listen,
everybody back on. So
I'm game for it if they, those guys, and I'm sure that they would be too. I think these guys, a lot of, not John Chung as much, but the other two guys,
yeah, actually,
they,
he's the only one that so I reached out to everybody, of course,
uh
and he's the only one that I hadn't heard back from. But
oh, okay.
I mean, I interviewed Sifu Mark
Yep.
and uh, McGregor. I
Yep.
actually talked to him on the phone, and we were gonna try and get something going, and just
Right.
crazy life and stuff get in the way,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
didn't really follow up. But I think I need to go back around and see if we can round everybody up, and
Yeah.
maybe do a
That
little
would be
round
good.
table or something. So
That would be
uh,
good.
so yeah. So once again, I thank you for being on,
Yes,
and
sir.
I think everyone's going to enjoy catching up with you. And yeah, just thank you so much for all that you do, and we will we'll stay in touch and have more fun in the future. So thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.